welcome to another up close video. So today's one is looking at the brand new Deckle edged guillotine trimmer from Tonic and Tim Holtz. You might have seen this in the Creativation videos back from January of this year, but it's finally available to actually buy now. So I thought I'd do this up close video. I know it's not going to be that long of a one really, it's just going to show you like how it cuts and stuff, but I thought it's quite nice to see up close the kind of deckle edge that it gives and stuff, so I thought some of you might find it useful to see it up close in a video. So this is the gorgeous trimmer. I think it's exactly the same size as the Tim Holtz Guillotine, you know, just the one that cuts straight lines. I still use the older version that Tonic had, so I'm not 100% sure, but I think it is the same size. And obviously it cuts the same amount. It's the same as this one too. It cuts 8.5 inches, so you can get the widthways of A4 or is it letter size in the US? The size of cardstock. It should fit both types of cardstock through that width. And let's get it out of the box to show you. So it comes in this gorgeous black and grey colour scheme because it goes with all of Tim Holtz's tools and stuff for Tonic now, because they changed it from the red kind of colour, they changed over to the black colouring. So, you know, it goes with all of his tools, even his like tiny attacher as well. Everything coordinates really nicely together. And it obviously says Tim Holtz Tonic and Deckle down the edge, so you instantly know it's your Deckle edge trimmer. But I think his actual normal straight edge trimmer, I think this main portion is grey, so you should be able to easily tell them apart anyway. You've got the safety guard on here, just like any of the other Tonic guillotines. Measuring guide wise, on the top of here, you actually on this type of guillotine and on the straight edge one, you can actually butt your card up against the top or the bottom, whereas the old style one you can only do it against the top, but you can do it at the top or the bottom, which is great because with this deckle, the deckle changes from the top to the bottom, so you've got different places that you can cut it. So if you're cutting like a square, for example, it's not going to look exactly the same deckle all the way around four sides of it. You can switch to using the bottom and the top to get a different kind of look as well. And then the measuring guide wise, the top one, inches is closer to the measuring bar, but you have the centimetres up there as well. And oh, actually that's quite good, it's got a little A5 on there too, so where it says A5, that is the height of an A6 card as well, so that gives you a nice little guide there too, to just trim your card in half, or to cut a card blank or a panel for your card as well, so that's really useful. And then on the bottom guide, again you've got that A5 guide there, but if you notice, the centimetres are closest to the little line that you butt up against, so depending whether you like to work in centimetres or inches, it's easier to see inches at the top and it's easier to see centimetres at the bottom, but they are both on both. And obviously going from the top or the bottom is kind of personal preference usually, but with this one it does, the deckle does change, and at the top here it's quite, it's not like a predominant kind of deckle, it's very subtle deckle up here, and it gets more of a deckle down in this portion, just because the way a guillotine works. I think it would all get jammed up if this was too deckly up here, so it's a very slight deckle at the top, and it's got the slightly more prominent deckle the rest of the way down, but that gives you the nice option of butting it up against the top and then at the bottom to give a different kind of look as you're cutting a panel as well. And it makes quite a nice sound now as well. I know a guillotine usually makes good sound, but because of the deckle, sounds a little bit different because of all the little deckly pieces chopping against each other. So this is the main guillotine. It's really nice and sturdy. It's got this good crossbar on the bottom. It's not too heavy. Obviously this side is heavier because it's got the blades on it, but it's not a too heavy a kind of guillotine, and it doesn't move around too much on your glass mat, which is quite nice. So I've got some bits and pieces. I was going to show you how to sort of cut up a background into your panel sizes. This one is one I was just playing with it. So this is my favourite size of a panel, which is 4 by 5¼ inches or 10 centimetres by about 13½ centimetres. And look at the gorgeous edge that it gives. And I think this trimmer is going to be brilliant because I do get a little bit lazy nowadays, and I don't tend to die cut my backgrounds with my stitched rectangles. I really should, because I love the look of it, but I do get a little bit lazy. But also sometimes you get carried away. You make your inky background and you put your stencil down and you run a 3-dimensional medium through it, like glimmer paste or a Nouveau Mousse or something, and then you're like, oh no, I wanted to die cut that and give it a cool edge. But then obviously, because you put something 3D on it, you don't really want to run it through your die cutting machine because it will squish it. So this trimmer is the perfect solution for that. I know you don't get the stitched edge on it, but you get an interesting looking edge that you could have achieved with a die, but it saves you the hassle of getting your die cutting machine out just to cut your background panel out. And it also means if you've put anything 3D on here, I know it would lift the guard up slightly, but it is possible to still trim your panel down even if you've got some 3D stuff on there, possibly even if you've already stuck an embellishment on there with some 3D foam tape as well. You should still be able to slide it under there and get a decent cut on it too, which is brilliant. But I just did this one as a sample, and this side here you can see this part of the decal isn't as pronounced as the rest of it because that is that first little bit of the trimmer, and it obviously can't be too decally because of the way a trimmer works, and that's like the join in the trimmer, or the meeting point of the two blades where they meet first. But you can see how it gets a little bit more decally as you go down, and it's a really delicate decal to begin with anyway, which I really like, because I think sometimes it looks well, it basically looks like those old pairs of scissors that you used to be able to get, and you'd cut along it and it would be really obvious and stuff. But I really like this dainty look that it gives, and it also emulates a kind of torn edge, because if you rip something against a ruler, this is a piece of vellum that I'd ripped against a ruler, it really is that kind of delicate deckled edge. I mean, this is even more subtle because it's on vellum, but it gives that kind of a look, really. And so a great thing about this trimmer is if you haven't had much success with ripping against a ruler to get that kind of a look, it also cuts your vellum really nicely. So I often like to have a ripped piece of vellum going like diagonally across a card, or like vertically or horizontally, and then putting my sentiment on top of it. So instead of having to rip your bits of vellum and maybe find it fiddly because you've got a smaller bit and you want to just add a ripped edge to it, instead you can now actually just cut your little vellum strips with that deckled edge, and you get that beautiful look with no effort whatsoever. It's literally seconds to create that, rather than having to rip against a ruler. So you're going to have more use out of like your little scraps of vellum as well, because sometimes if you're left with a piece that's about this wide and you wanted to give it that ripped edge, it's very difficult to do, because you either got to put a lot of pressure on your ruler to just hide one little portion while you rip against it, or it's really fiddly. But if you only had a small piece like that, you could actually use the trimmer to trim it down a little tiny bit, and then you still get that really cool edge. So I think this is great for this kind of thing as well. And look, even that little piece looks pretty cool. That could look like icicles or something. You could cut lots of them and have them hanging down on a card, and it could be like little icicles. Or any like little borders. Actually, just layering that on top of it looks really nice as a little extra element. So any little, I know I like to do it a lot, cutting like little thin strips of cardstock to just like pull a colour to another area of the card, and it would be perfect to do with this, because you could just literally, that's a little bit wonky, but you could literally just cut thin strips like this, and even that looks like a lovely bit of snow. If you've got like a little house image, you could have cut little bits of this and have it like the snowy roof edges and stuff. So I think there's loads of different ways of using this trimmer. I also wanted to show you, I've only actually been trying vellum and the white card that I usually use, which is 300 GSM by the way, so it does cut through really nicely. And actually another thing I use my trimmer for a lot, so I want to show you this, is cutting a already folded card blank. So if I take a card blank, I haven't tried this, but I'm hoping it will work. Usually Tonic tools are fabulous for cutting through thicker amounts of material and stuff. So what about if you want to give your card blank a really cool deckled edge? So actually, let's do it at the bottom, because then we'll get a slightly different decal on this too. And it does. Look how neatly that cuts through both sides of a card blank. So you've now got a deckled edged card blank, which is fantastic. And obviously you can do that on all of the sides as well. If I chop this down so it'll be a top folding A2 kind of size card. And then this side as well. Obviously make sure you put the fold towards the bar as well, just to make sure you're getting a good measurement. And look how easy that was. Now you've got a deckled edge card blank, and then you can just have a straight rectangle on there, maybe even another deckled one matted inside that as well to give a really cool effect, and instant. And it's much cheaper than buying card blanks that have already got a kind of edge on them. Not that I've seen deckled edge really, it's mostly really a scalloped edge, but anyway, that's another great use for the trimmer. And you've also got like the little scrap pieces as well. That could just be snow on the bottom of a card too. Then I also wanted to show just like craft card to see how well that cuts too. Brilliant, cuts really nicely. And you can do the gorgeous like little skinny bits, and you can see there actually, because I cut it in the same place both times, it's like the perfect width all the way down. But you could also butt it up to the bottom, and then you would get a different look on both sides. So it gives it a slightly different kind of feel. So that one is different on both sides, and then this one is the same on both sides. So also you can play around with that for different strips of card, which is lovely. Then obviously black card as well. And I was thinking for the black card, you know when you stamp and heat emboss your sentiment in white embossing powder onto like a little strip of black card? Imagine how cool it's going to look if you've cut it with the deckled edge as well. And you could even do the deckled edge and then rip the end of it to give a really cool look. So I think that would be really lovely for adding your sentiments. Or similarly, just doing stamping black onto white as well would look just as lovely. And let's see if we can just trim off the edge of this piece. So I think you're going to be able to use lots of your small little scraps as well, and give it that fun deckled edge to make the most of all your little scrappy pieces. So that's brilliant as well. Then I wanted to try acetate. I've just got this random piece of snowflake acetate here, but I thought it would be interesting to see how well it cuts. And it does cut really well. I think this has got a protective layer on it as well. You can't really see it on acetate, but if you then added that onto maybe a black panel, you can kind of see that sort of deckled edge along the edge of it. So it's good to know that it cuts through acetate, because I was kind of worried that maybe you wouldn't be able to cut through a folded card blank or acetate or something like 300 GSM cardstock that is like quite thick because of the decal, but it still seems to chop straight through it, which is brilliant. And then I did these two backgrounds for another video that I've been working on, and I thought I'd just show you how you can easily chop a background down with the trimmer. And obviously you can use both sides of the cut, so we've only got to cut this like down the centre and then trim off the two ends of it and the top and the bottom. So I thought that would be a good thing to show. So I tend to like to cut my panels, like I said before, to like 13.5 by 10 centimetres. So I'm just going to chop that end off, then flip it round and chop at 13.5. And then I'm going to use the top portion up here to trim a little bit of this side off. Then I think I'll come back to the bottom and I want to measure out 10 centimetres like that. So we've got that perfect panel there with our cool wacky background on it that we can obviously add to, because we've cut that into a panel for our card now. And then I can also trim this one down, and we only had to do that one cut in the centre. And actually this one, that card blank that I trimmed, I think I did actually trim it shorter than I usually would. Oh, that's not it, it's hiding. So I trimmed the card blank to the size I usually do my panels. So let's actually trim off another 5mm on each side of this. So we do that 13 centimetres. And then I can show you how you would kind of mat and layer the decal on top of each other. And I think that looks really lovely to have that deckled edge on there. Or you can add a straight edge underneath that as well, and then it will really pop that decal edge out, depending on what other colours of cardstock you've used. Like you might want to add a little black deckled edge, a straight edge, sorry, underneath that deckled mat, and then you could have your sentiment stamped on a piece of black card on top of it and stuff to tie it all together. And then while I'm doing that one, I might as well just trim this one too. So let's do this one to 13.5. It's really easy to line up the measurements as well. And then we'll do 10 centimetres. And then 10 centimetres, we'll do this one at the top to give it a different decal. And it is still easy to measure at the top as well. If you're using the furthest away measurement, it is still easy to measure that, which is good. And there we go. So really easy to just chop up any backgrounds that you've done into the perfect sized panel. And obviously you can, you know, trim them skinnier and then have a piece of card coming out the side of it. Maybe this one, if I trim this to, let's go 9 centimetres, and then we get that card blank back again. So we could have it like this and possibly have a straight strip of card coming down the edge of it too. Have I got a little bit of, kind of made a decal edge on everything now. But you could, if you were going to do the black kind of mat with the sentiment strip, you can have that like straight bit on there to kind of emphasise the deckled edge, and then bring like your little black sentiment strip in as well to kind of build up your card design and stuff. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this little up close video just looking at the brand new decal edge trimmer from Tonic and Tim Holtz. I thought it would be really nice just to show you an up close look of it. So hopefully some of you enjoyed that, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next video. Bye!